change, they will more and more know who they are. Same as all of us. You don't have to be in the ministry leadership to change lives. And as you step out and people walk up and thank you and appreciate, and there's genuine fruit that remains. Everyone say fruit that remains. Fruit that remains. So that's eternal things, birthed from the Spirit of God through your life, and they're now evidenced as being that. For me, eventually now I can travel, although I'm still a work in progress like you. I still don't know what I'm going to be when I really grow up. You know, I'm still working on it. I still feel like I've done a lot of things. I've done more than some people, not as much as some others. But I've done enough that blows my mind. I've already gone far past what I would imagined I would do as a young fella. And but because of the years that I've now done it, I can see the fruit. I can go into a town, I can go back somewhere, and I can see the fruit. People will declare what that fruit is. People know who I am. People will tell me who I am. And I'm not trying to ask them who I am, but they see the fruit. That's what Jesus meant. They will know you by your fruit. Not necessarily by your credential or by what you've learned or what you've studied or what comes out your mouth, but what is the fruit of your life. And I think when we get to the other end of our life, in fact, John 15 says, that the way we'll please our Father is by bearing much fruit and fruit that remains. In other words, by that effect of God through our life, touching other people's lives, so that it is an eternal change, it is an eternal fruit, so that the production of our life by the Spirit is what pleases God. I want to get to heaven and feel like I've pleased God here on earth. Amen? How many want to do that? I want to challenge you as a church to step into a new phase or an increased phase or a reminded phase of evangelism in your own life. To be conscious of winning the lost. To be conscious of being a person that bears fruit. To be conscious of reproducing the Christ that you love and honor. And do you really honor the Christ inside of you? Do you really understand who it is that lives in your life? Is He real inside of you, so that when you stand before someone else that's hurting or broken or lost or needs healing or needs love or needs understanding or whatever it is, that you know you have it inside of you? Your mind will say, I'm inadequate. Your soul will say you're inadequate, but your spirit has the resource of heaven inside it. Your spirit has the knowledge of heaven. Everything that pertains to life and godliness is inside of you. Everything that's in the mind of God you have access to. And you can step into that unknown situation. You can step into that position where in the natural you can do nothing. But in the Spirit you have an ability and an adequacy to handle the situation. We shared last week or whatever, just in the last 3 months, people healed of incurable AIDS. Testified by the doctors while we're still in the country. You know, but to me, I mean, I'm glad for that. I kind of felt that happen the night we laid hands on the man. But I'm more happy that the man's living now and got his job back and strength is back in his body, and he'll probably get married. He's a preacher of the gospel, and he came out of a homosexual background, but he was only a homosexual because someone molested him as a little kid. And all of a sudden he's paying the price of AIDS in his body because of the whole course of his life. And then he gets saved and he's out there preaching to people who are lost. And then he finds he's got 2 major strains of full-blown AIDS and he's dying. And we walk into his life again. We led him to the Lord several years back. We walk into his life and he's there broken on a walker, and you pray for him and God's power comes through. Next thing we hear, you know, and Bob and Cam, you know, they're personal friends of him also. And they followed him through the months that we were there. And they got the report back from the doctor, and the doctors had declared him healed. The count that was in the millions of whatever it was had totally reversed. And you look at that and you go, that's amazing. Today, there is no cure to AIDS, is there? So how do you go and study? How do you find in here, you know, the process or the program or the way of healing AIDS? There is no way or program of healing AIDS. But God has healed AIDS on the cross of Calvary. And so when you lay hands on someone and you love someone and you believe God and you ask people to believe God, just like we're believing for folks here tonight, then God can come through. If God can heal 2 major strains of full-blown AIDS in a young man who, by the world's standards and even by some religious thinking, would say, well, he deserves what he's got. He's reaping what he's sown. But God still paid the price. God still said, I set you free. And if God can set him free, he can set us free of the things that we struggle to believe that God could set us free. But the point I'm making is, I know a little bit more about who I am. I know a little bit about more who God is. I have a confidence building inside me that I'm not really aware of or totally sure of right now. But I believe that there is a greater place of knowing who you are to enter into a place where God can just be God. You know, I still know there's that measuring system inside of me. Like I can believe for backs to be healed, I can believe for broken ribs, for hands, for all. You know, I've seen a lot of things, but every now and again you walk up to something and go, and you just know that's outside of your realm of faith. You know what I'm saying? I try not to want to ever meet anything like that. But if a Down syndrome child comes and the mother says, I want my child to be healed, I don't know how to face that yet. I don't know. I've never... Personally, I've seen healings in Down syndrome child, but I don't know that it's something God's going to just all of a sudden make it not Down syndrome. I really don't know. I know he can, but what I'm saying is that's still a struggle in my mind. I've seen people get out of wheelchairs, so I walk up now and I know people can get out of wheelchairs. Does that mean everyone will get out of a wheelchair? No, but they can. I know that. And I tell people that, and I tell enough stories to know that if God had ever done it for one, he'll do it for anyone. Okay? But there are things in all of our lives that we struggle with because of who we are. But it will get broken as we step out to do it. It won't get broken by thinking about it. It will get broken by stepping out to do it. I years ago wondered how Smith Wigglesworth and John G. Lake and all these guys got good at what they did, and they had, you know, when by the time we read their book at the end of their life, as a testimony, we see all this remarkable life and healings. And I studied their lives, and I realised that nearly every one of them ministered about 6 days of the week. They would rest 1 day, and they would minister in meetings and in places just about the whole week. And I said, God, one day I want to do that. If that's what it takes, I want to do that. So for most of my life, in the last 15 years or so, I've pretty much ministered nearly every opportunity I can. It's almost hard for me to come home and just do Sundays. Not really when I've got so much work to do, but in my sense of spiritual growth, it's a loss to just do normal things for a week and only do church on a Sunday for me. I pray as a church you will be faithful with your Sundays, build it on Sundays, and get another night happening not too far in the future. That you'll be hungry enough to support it and say, no, church, it's not enough church to have just 1 day of church. Not that it wouldn't be enough for you and not that you could do without it, but that you want it for someone else. Someone else is going to walk in. Just like Michael was saved this morning, there's always a moment if you have a meeting where someone's life can get touched. We want to live no longer for ourselves, but live for him. Amen? So the challenge I want to make to you is bear fruit. Bear much fruit. I'm not talking to this young couple over here that are not married yet about having babies yet, but I'm talking about bearing fruit, spiritual fruit that will remain, and to evangelize in your life, evangelize in your world. Not to the point of bothering people or being stupid, but letting your light so shine. That evangelism is simple, that what you have is very powerful and very precious.